small medal there called the Silver Star. How'd you win that?
That was, I was still flying gunships, because I flew the gunships for 6 months, and then I flew medevac for 6 months. But it was at the end, kind of the end of when I was flying the gunships. We were at Quezon, and everybody, most people have heard of that, the siege of Quezon. Actually, there was a couple battles at Quezon, but this one was the last one. And the Marines were at Quezon, and they were getting torn up pretty bad. Long siege, and lots of casualties. And so they sent us, the first cav, up there to rescue the Marines. Then we got ourselves in trouble. And somebody had to come rescue us. But it was a long battle, and on this particular day, there was a ground unit at a fire base on top of a little hill. And they'd been overrun. And there was a lot of bodies, no movement except for one. One guy was laying on his back, and he was waving his arms like this. And there was a lot of trenches leading to the area. There was VC, and I think there was hardcore NDA that were there too. You could see them running around. And we put down a lot of fire. That morning, several helicopters tried to get in there and get this guy out because he was still waving his arm. And later in the day, we decided to give it one more try. So we were out of ammo in the gunship. Fired all our rockets and everything. My roommate was flying with us, and we brought in a couple more gunships from the 1st to the 9th, and we just made a plan, and we were going to try and land and pick this guy up, and all these other guys, other gunships were going to just put down suppressive fire the whole time. Geez, I didn't know I was getting into, because I mean, these guys were kidding. They were putting fire everywhere. We came in and landed, and I got out of the helicopter, and my crew chief got out of the helicopter with me. And we ran over, picked this guy up, and he was captain. He was one of the officers up there. Picked him up, brought him back to the helicopter, and we saw another body close by, so we went and grabbed him. It turned out to be the battalion commander. He was dead.
Oh wow!
And but we put him on the helicopter. Meanwhile, we couldn't see it from where we were, but the guys that were giving us cover could see all the enemy troops that were trying to get to us. And there was a group that was almost on top of us. I didn't even know it. And they were just about to jump up, and they would have killed all of us. My roommate fired rockets he was firing at us, basically. I mean, he figured we were dead anyway.
Yeah. So
he put down this fire, and he thought he had killed us all. And when I had my memories of it, I have visual memories of it, but in the memory, when I remember it, I can't hear anything. The noise was so loud that the memory of it, there's no noise at all.
Right.
It's just like blank, you know. And anyway, I jumped back in, and we got back out of there, and then on the way back, I got in the back and gave the guys first aid as best I could, you know. He did survive. He was a captain, as I recall, and he was paralyzed, but he did live. And he had the use of his arms, but his legs were paralyzed. He had a back injury. So we probably didn't do any good the way we were hauling him back to the ship, but, you know, what else could we do?
Well, I understand that. You do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any more contact with him? Or?
No.
Okay.
I was never able to actually find out who he was. So.
Yeah, well, I need to explain a little bit about Silver Star. Normally, when a helicopter pilot does something heroic or something, he usually gets a Distinguished Flying Cross, a DFC. But Ted did a little more than that. Silver Star is a lot higher than a DFC, and that's congratulations on earning that.
Thanks. The other good thing about that is it gets you a free slot at Arlington.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, you can be buried at Arlington.
Okay.
So
Well,
I figured
there's all kinds of perks, right?
yeah, it's, good company, so.
All right. Well, you've written a book.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, and how did you get into writing a book?
Well, I retired from flying about 3 years ago, and I got bored really fast, and I decided I got to do something. I got to get a new. I'd always been a very big reader. I hate to travel without a book, and books are great because you could just pick them up and start and finish whenever you want. They're handy and convenient. I was a big reader. For some reason, I'm not sure why, writing a book was something I always thought I could do. And no particular reason for that, I just thought I could. And so I decided to give it a shot. And they always say, write what you know. So I wrote this novel called Mystic Dancer. I would call it historical fiction because it's based on real events and real people who were there at the time in the country of Laos around 1970. We had a huge secret war going on over there, and at the time I understand it was the biggest CIA operation ever at that time. And members of Congress didn't even know about it. Most of it's common knowledge today. But basically we got the indigenous people, the mountain people called the Hmong people, Montagnards people. We got them to fight our war for us, which they did very well. They were good fighters, and then we abandoned them, as we often do, as we've done in Iraq, and probably we're going to do in Afghanistan and a couple other places around the world. When we abandoned them, they suffered greatly at the hands of the communists, and that's the story. And it's based on people who were there at that time, real people. One of the main characters is a priest who was very prevalent there. People knew who he was. The rest of it, right down to the bartender at the hotel in Vientiane, was a real character. And the name Mystic Dancer is a theme, a recurring theme that recurs several times during the story. And I'm pretty hard on myself, and I was happy with the way the book turned out. I actually liked it. It's a book that I would like to read if I was looking for something to read, and that was really my goal. I think if you write something that you would like, that there's other people who would as well. It's been very well received.
Right.
And you learn the formula, the format, and what needs to go where. I like to have a few twists and turns in the story.
Absolutely.
Personally, I hate watching a movie or reading a book when I can predict what's going to happen. I just hate that.
Oh, I understand that part.
So it's got to be some. I like reading historical fiction because when I read a novel, I want to be entertained. But if I can learn something while I'm reading it, all the better, as long as I don't have to work too hard to learn it. And so those were my goals when I wrote.
Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. Congratulations on that Silver Star, man.
Oh, thank you, Pat.
I appreciate you coming on.